Last Wednesday. So actually, yes, I've actually had pie altogether. Yes. Yeah.
just nurturing, and Ruth gets on the phone and contacts them if they haven't been showing up and makes sure everybody's doing well. So I really appreciate that, Ruth. This year we started something new. We made up the Junia Award. And the Junia Award is for women who are doing a pastoral role, one in each division, because we think this is really important, that people understand that this is not an us versus them issue. There are women who are pastoring, chaplaining, Bible teaching, and mentoring in every division, and we did not have much trouble finding them. We had trouble communicating with them. Russia in particular will not communicate back with us because if you contact them on Facebook, it's officially illegal for them to have Facebook. But if you haven't read the stories of our Junia women, they're over on the poster in the corner, and they're fantastic. Now we have 3 of our winners here today. We have Maria Ejarango, who's at Waterman Vizian Filipino American Church, and pastor. And so we really appreciate that mentorship that these women represent. There's one thing that I learned doing the Junia Awards that I have been doing wrong. I have been hiding the 3 women pastors in Uganda because I was afraid that they would have reprisals against them. And it turns out that many of these women pastors want the West to know about them, to hear about them, and to be published over here because they feel that it increases the likelihood that they will maintain their job. So you will hear more of us talking about women that we thought were in difficult situations because they want everybody to know that they are there, and the more eyes that are on them, the more support that they feel and the safer they think their position is. So if you haven't read Edith Kawalagam, I think it's almost 8 years now. The other 2 women pastors that were there, one is now working in medical chaplaincy and one is working in administration. So this represents a loss of women that are actually frontline pastors. Edith is a district pastor. She has 18 churches, and there are 7,000 members in her district.
That means work.
Part of our translation efforts, we have a woman who translates into Tagalog, and she has asked to translate Called by God, which is the Josephine Benton book. Some of you would have read it. It talks about early Adventist women who were evangelists, pastors, and some of which were ordained. And I really feel strongly that it is immoral for us to translate this into Tagalog without talking about the women. And then next year we will be doing the women pastors count so that we can have that information ready for the general conference. So if you have connections with anybody who counts women, anybody who knows women, I'll be calling in March on Facebook and other places. Please let me know the women pastors that you know. And then lastly, the latest news. This morning, I believe, I wasn't able to verify it, but I believe this morning Silvia Scholtus was ordained as an elder. These are the first women to be ordained in 20 years in Argentina. There were 5 women that were ordained and 5 men. And that's exciting. We also have women baptizing at the Camporee. You can see the puff of Wendy Jackson's red hair in Papua New Guinea, when they had a 250,000 people baptized into the Adventist church, Wendy Jackson was there baptizing. And then we have Tisipio Mumbeli. This is a photo, a year old now, doing the first female baptism in South Africa for at least 40, 50 years, if ever. And she tells me, oh, don't worry, Pastor Pades, I've done 14, 15 now, I've lost count. So she continues to baptize in South Africa as the other women who are commissioned to. So that's the status of women as we know it in the Adventist Church today, and support us so that we can keep telling stories, so that we can keep in touch and keep shining a light on these women's work. Consecrated, Lord, to Thee, take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love. Take my hands and voice and let me sing, always on Thee for my King. Take my voice and let me sing, always on Thee for my King. Take my silver and my gold, not a mite would I withhold. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my moments and my days. Let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my will and make it thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is Thine own. It shall be Thy royal throne. Take my heart, it is Thine own. It shall be Thy royal
To receive the packet of seeds as well. In my spare time, I'm a gardener. I have a garden at home, and I will certainly be planting those seeds, and my wife's packet of seeds. And every time I see them, I will think of the work that the Association of Adventist Women is doing, and all of the women around the world that are doing such an important ministry for the church. So really, it is a privilege and an honor to be here this evening. And for my wife to be here, and I want to thank Linda and Nerida for the invitation. Yes, it was a great surprise, actually, when Linda contacted me and said that I had been nominated for an award. I didn't really know what to do because I'm originally British, I'm from England, but I've been living in Norway now for 22 years. And they don't do prizes very well in Scandinavia. They have this thing called janteloven, which is a kind of a principle that you never boast about anything, and you never give anybody too much credit, just in case they get a little bit big for their boots. So I was a bit sort of, oh, what is this? But it's really exciting to be here, and I tell you that I'll go. Yeah, this is. I see this as really an acknowledgement of what the Norwegian Union has been doing, and really it's that I want to share with you this evening for a few minutes. And I'd better get a move on because Linda said 15 minutes, and I think I have maybe 2 or 3 more minutes than that, and I've been already talking for a few. So let me get into this. I thought, what shall I share with you? And I had all sorts of thoughts going on through my head. There's so much that I could share, and Rene mentioned some of the stuff that I've been involved with, but I think probably where my most efforts have been, and perhaps what has been most noticed in the past years, is where the Norwegian Union has been working for equality between men and women in ministry. So I'd like to share some experiences and reflections from our experience in the Norwegian Union. I thought perhaps that would be interesting. There's probably many here. There's some I met who do know the Norwegian Union, but maybe not everybody. So I thought it might be interesting just to share some of those specific experiences and where we're at with the process. As opposed to being more general. So over the past 30 years, we have come a very long way in the Norwegian Union. But it is very much a group effort. So this, this recognition, I have to say, is for the pastors and the members of the Norwegian Union Conference. Particularly, I want to pay tribute this evening to my female colleagues who have always put call above recognition. Quietly, efficiently, and compassionately, they have gone about the call that God has given to them. They have been hurt, but they have never been agitating. They have expressed disappointment in the world church, but have never been militant, because they love God and they care deeply about the church. Their dignity and dedication has inspired solidarity from their male colleagues. It has inspired action from the Union Executive Committee, and it has motivated me personally to speak up in meetings and committees and to press forward. None of us, however, and credit where credit is due, could have come as far as we have in the Norwegian Union without the efforts of Pastor Finn Eckhoff, who was our union executive. He's now semi-retired. He was our union secretary from 2005 to 2020, and this really was his heart passion. His thoughtful theology won the argument in Norway. His expert knowledge of working policy gave us the ability to attempt, at least, to engage positively with the General Conference on possible solutions. And there are solutions in policy, if only there was a will to use them. When that will was not there, it was Pastor Finn Eckhoff who worked out the details of the alternative credentials we now use in Norway, because as Rene said, no pastor in Norway is ordained anymore. I also want to recognize Pastor Reidar Kvinge, who led the union. He had my position and led them through the disappointment in 2015. It was he who allowed our union to embark on this journey and for Finn to do his work. Now, the title I gave Linda for my talk this evening is "We're Not Done Yet, Women in Ministry in Europe and the World." And wherever you go in the world, we're at different stages. And even in Norway, we still have work to do. So let me share some of the things that we are working with presently. because there are issues that even in Norway, even in Scandinavia, we're still having to face and to deal with. The Norwegian Union, let me start with this. The Norwegian Union believes that we need to look again, not just at the ordination men-women thing, but the theology of ordination, full stop, which is deeply influenced by medieval Catholicism, traditionalism, and culture. So we believe that a much safer model is to look at the priesthood of all believers, which is based in pre-fall Eden. So you can go way back to the beginning of the Bible, before the fall, where God creates people in his own image, male and female, he creates them. The rib is taken from the side of Adam, not from his head or his toe or anything, it's from the side. So this ministry of all believers, it starts in the Garden of Eden, and we believe that's where the ministry of the priesthood of all believers is where we need to look again. It is where the Holy Spirit calls and gifts both men and women for periods of time in specific places and for specific reasons. And I don't have it with me, but there are quotes. Ellen White talks about how in the book of Acts there was blessings and prayers and laying on of hands when somebody was going out for ministry, a specific task in a particular place for a specific period. There is much more I could say about theology, but I will leave it there, only to say that our world church, however our world church dresses it up, we need to be clear that the situation we're in today is because of culture and tradition, not Bible or inspiration. These convictions have led us to say that ordination is not the be-all or end-all for men. If we can't ordain equally, then we don't need to ordain at all. Some of the male pastors in our union after 2015, they came to the administration and they said, you can have the ordination back. We're handing in our credentials. So I just need to pay tribute to those colleagues, our male pastors, some of who did that. And so so now we have an alternative system of credentials in place until such time as the world church can accommodate equality in ministry, in harmony with fundamental beliefs and the basic principles of working policy, which are very clear, by the way. The fundamental basic principles of working policy are very clearly anti-discriminatory. This whole issue comes from a small half phrase in some brackets at the end of a sentence that says, except in the case of pastoral ministry, which was added much later. So policy contradicts, that little phrase there contradicts the rest of policy, which is such a shame. Okay, however, we're not patting ourselves on the back thinking that we're done with our work. There is still much to do. And I want to say that what I do at Annual Council at the GC is important, but it is not the most important thing. Things are only going to change wherever you are in the world. It's only going to change from the grassroots. Conferences and unions who value women in ministry need to make sure that we are recruiting women and making their experience as pastors a good one. We need to protect our female pastors. We will not see gender-balanced top leadership in the church until there are many more women pastoring at a local level. So recruitment is the number one priority when it comes to this in the Norwegian Union. Of our 40 pastoral positions available in the Norwegian Union, 9 are filled by women, only 9. And only 5 of those are pastors out in local churches. Our union secretary, Mariana Dirud, is another one, and then my wife is a departmental director, and our ADRA director is also a woman. So only 5 out in the local churches of there must be about 32 totally of pastors in the field. So the recruiting of young women into ministry is vital going forward. But in Europe, we have a general recruitment problem, not just with young ladies, but with young men as well. There are very few people who are studying theology at all. Anecdotally, I was talking with my wife about this. She's the youth director, and she talks to many young women about ministry and their role and their call. And anecdotally, I believe that actually there are more young women today in Scandinavia thinking about pastoral ministry than there are young men. Which is tremendous. But there is also hesitation. They worry about job security. They see it as a still very male-dominated working environment. And they may have parents who are encouraging them into some other line of work because they're worried for their daughters. They don't want their daughters to get hurt. The recruitment of young women to ministry is essential. People say we need more women in leadership. Yes, that's true, but that will never happen if we have too few young women coming through the system. And by the way, the attitudes of our members, who some of them are still stuck 50 years ago, the attitude of members will also be altered by encountering women on the front line who are good and talented pastors. Our second area that we are looking at and working with is our committees. In Norway, the executive committees at both conference and union level all have at least a 60-40 ratio of men and women. But because most of the administrators are men, it tends to be that the lay representatives on the committees are women. This is a form of discrimination itself, because suddenly you have a situation where capable and competent lay men are not being given the opportunity to serve in the committees because we don't have enough balance in the denominational representatives in the committees. So there again, it's a question of fairness. I believe that it has to be a kind of a quota system for the time being until we get to a time where we can have a more balanced system where we have both employed and lay representatives of both men and women. And by the way, we in the Norwegian Union, we have to report every year to the government about the equality situation on our executive committees. It's expected. Thirdly, I want to mention policy. After several rounds of editing, our policy and bylaws are, I hope and believe, free from discriminatory language or biases. And we found out that this was much more than just a case of replacing the word him with more neutral or inclusive ways of expressing the policy. But there were also things like the old policy not having anything about maternity leave for pastors. Or what are the rights of a pastor when a child has to be off school due to sickness? In much church policy, it is simply assumed that the pastor, a man, will not have to worry about the kids or home life because the spouse will be at home. This is simply not the reality in most of Europe, at least Western Europe, where in any line of work, both men and women, in any family, both the mother and the father are working. And this is also the case when it comes to church policy as well. So, I mean, it's even legislated in Norway that parents have to share 50-50 the parental leave when a new child is born. And so none of this was in church policy, of course. So we've been trying to work with some of these things. And my point is this, that even where the conferences and unions are encouraging women pastors, there are often cultural and sometimes invisible biases which make our female colleagues feel unwelcome or unseen. So we men, we have to become more attuned to what I call institutional sexism in the church. And we need to chip away at these biases. These are cultural things. They sit deep. They're deeply ingrained. And we have to chip away at these things. And you find them if you really search in the policy. Finally, I just want to mention, I say finally, I want to reflect a little bit about the world situation as well. But finally about Norway. We did a qualitative study in 2019 where we interviewed all of our women pastors and also some of the our ex-women pastors, women who were pastors who are no longer pastors. And we wanted to find out how we could do better for women in ministry. The older interviewees told of opposition and hurt in the early days. The younger ones, I'm glad to say, spoke of their appreciation for the way they had been accepted and supported and for how the leadership had stuck up for them. The picture we gained was one that of attitudes changing over a period of 25 years or so, and of the church becoming more attuned to specific needs and gifts of women. However, the young women still told us that we have more work to do when it comes to, for example, accommodating family life and pastoral work. So helping a mother or a father combine ministry for a congregation with the ministry they have at home. Another area they wanted to encourage was more teamwork. Their input was that pastors working in teams where men and women could complement each other and be supportive would be a better model of ministry. They were telling us that they don't like being lone wolf pastors. And in Norway, a small union, and if you know the geography of Norway, it's a long country, and there are mountains and geography that separates, and we have small churches, so you can have a pastor there, and it's 5 hours to the next pastor, and that pastor has 2 small churches, and that pastor has 3 small churches. How do we create teamwork in an environment like that? We're just talking about this at the moment, but we're thinking that perhaps with the learnt skills and the technology that we have now for communication over distance, that maybe we can create something. Maybe we can create accountability groups where small groups of pastors meet together regularly. They talk about further education. They talk about their challenges and their joys. They pray for each other, and they even get an increased travel budget to be able to visit each other's churches and help maybe with each other's projects. So this is something that we are looking at because we believe that it's not just our women pastors that need those relationships, but actually it would be helpful and useful for all of our pastors, especially the younger ones who are much more who want much more to be in relationship as they do their work. Now, before I close, I just want to share some reflection on the general situation in the world church. In a way, when it comes to this issue of women in ministry and the ordination issue, the pandemic created a very necessary timeout for the church. I mean, those annual councils in 2018 and 2019, they were tense. They were really tense. And you know, it was particularly 2019 where they were dishing out warnings and they wanted to reprimand the 2 North American unions. And there was like this voice in my head, just in that debate, stand up and recommend a kind of an amendment to the motion so that the North American got the same warning as the European unions. And the executive committee, they voted through that. And it was, I was so happy for, it was a small victory, but it was something. And, but it was tense, so we needed that timeout. But the issue is not resolved. It's still not resolved. There are 6 unions that have a so-called warning hanging over them. And there have been changes in leadership in some of those unions and at the North American division and at the Trans-European division. So the danger, as I see it, is this, that while we are happy for the respite and for the opportunity to focus on the mission of the church, we must not become complacent. There is still a lot of work to do. And I have to say I've been a bit disappointed that not more unions have taken steps to ordain or at least find ways to employ men and women equally. Let us hope and pray that those who are waiting to see what happens next summer will be brave enough to take a stand, whatever happens. In my opinion, the solution is simple. There is provision in working policy to allow unions to depart from policy in this area in exceptional circumstances. This requires the permission of the General Conference. It would solve everything. Well, I would say that in the secular post-Christian world, there is a missional imperative for the church to recognize men and women equally for doing the same job. Firstly, because we need both men and women in ministry, especially when we're having a recruitment crisis in the church in the Western countries. And we need their unique gifts and all that they bring to the task. But secondly, because the integrity of the church is undermined by inequality. People in my country and more throughout the world simply do not want to belong to a church that does not practice what it preaches. So in conclusion, how do we approach matters of conscience in the church in these interesting times? I don't have the answer to that question. But I do know we don't want the culture wars in the church that we see in the world. I do have maybe 3 principles that I try to adhere to when I am talking with people who disagree with me. The first is that I try to think well about the motives of people that I disagree with. Generally, I find that people, even when they have a different opinion, they mean well. Their motives are okay. I know it can be frustrating at times, but try to think the best of those who are in opposition. Be courteous and kind. I've found that we win friends when we can show kindness to those with whom we disagree. There are cultures, I come from a culture in Western Europe, especially Scandinavia, which is very direct. Honesty if you list all the values, honesty is on the top there. You say what you think. But there are cultures that are completely different, and where if you talk rudely, maybe to the leadership and so on, you really lose a lot of friends. And so I try to be courteous and kind whenever I am saying anything in committees and confronting people. And finally, just be patient. Traditions and beliefs are part of a deeper culture. Culture takes time to change. Too much change too quickly causes conflict and can split the church. Sometimes we need to use some stepping stones on our way to the destination. I always say that leadership is about a direction, and if you take enough small steps, in the end you get there. At the end of the day, we need to stand up for an ethical church. So I want to thank you again, all of you, for all that you do for justice in our church. Thank you, Association of Adventist Women, for how you encourage and nurture our women. The church needs you, so let us support one another and love those with whom we disagree. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor Marley, for those comments. And I would just say to those of you here tonight, if you want to see a really good speech, Google Victor Marley's speech at General Conference 2015. Was that the year? 2017? 18. it will inspire you. So thank you so much for your inspiration tonight. We greatly appreciate it. My name is Linda Becker. I serve on the board of the Association of Adventist Women. And I want to thank you each for being here tonight. We are here to celebrate women and men who are doing an incredible work for God. And as I listened to Randy Roberts' sermon this morning, and he was talking about unsung heroes, he was talking about two men whose names aren't even mentioned, but they were the ones that went to the Greeks and started talking about the good news of Jesus. They were the first ones to really go outside the Jewish nation to do that, and we don't even know their names. The interesting part is that the ripples from what they did have probably gone on for centuries. And tonight we're here to celebrate women who are often the unsung heroes amongst us. In fact, I was chatting with someone in line tonight, and we were saying, can you imagine what would happen to the Adventist church on a Sabbath if all the... Tonight we have 5 women, and we have 5 women and 1 man who we're going to be recognizing. And these people are from around the world, and Nerida has just done, I want to give Nerida a huge kudo tonight. Nerida, our president. Here's Nerida. Thank you. Nerida has done a tremendous work in researching where women are serving around the world. And if you've noticed, she has on a beautiful dress tonight, but she has on her dress places where women are serving. And I believe she has to add some dots to those, some glitter to that every year, because more and more women are serving. And they're serving in places that we didn't even know women were at and were serving. And it's just so heartening to see the work that women are doing. And I am reminded of a quote that I read not long ago, where Ellen White says, women shouldn't be confined by the social climate that they find themselves in. Women should be encouraged to use every talent they have to further the ministry and to further the good news. And I think it's so exciting and so inspiring when we see women who are willing to do that and who are willing to step into their gifts to serve and to help spread the good news. So tonight, we're ready to recognize these people. And the first woman who we will be recognizing tonight is Dr. Elizabeth Talbot. And the person who's going to be introducing what she has been doing tonight has changed slightly from your program. It is Daryl Mundall, who's the Vice President of the Loma Linda Broadcasting Network. So Daryl, please come up and make the introduction.
It is a privilege to be here tonight and introduce somebody who is a giant in Adventist media, Dr. Talbot. And you can read in the program her bio in there, but I'm going to go into some other things. So, I've worked in media for basically all of my adult life and have an understanding of the challenges and, well, what it takes to make media. And of course, this is only a part of what Dr. Talbot has done. Written books, what do you have, 16 books? 16 books. And pastored, taught. But we're going to talk about Jesus 101 here. And, okay, fundamentally, when it comes to everybody in this world, fundamentally, what they need is Jesus. And the fundamentals, if you've been to college, as I think we all have, 101 is the baseline. Jesus 101, she's presenting Jesus as the foundation to everything. Now, my dad used to say, nothing worth doing will ever be easy. And nothing big just happens. It takes somebody with a will. It takes somebody with a mission. It takes somebody with what it takes to actually make it happen. So, in media, television programming, we have the content that has to be created and designed, which is an enormous job, and then broken up into shows. And then, well, we have to have a facility, a studio, and set design, and work with graphics, design for the look of the show, for the look of the open, the close, the lower thirds, etc., etc. Work with the designers on creating all of this, the animations, the audio portion of that. And this is all before you even shoot a show. So set design occurs. And I know from working with Dr. Talbot, because she did several series with LLBN, that she is very much involved in every aspect of what she does. And all of this on top of writing books and doing everything else that she does, it's hard to believe that somebody can do everything that has been done, 24 hours a day. That's all there is. But I think she would be the first to say a good team, a good crew is most essential. Could we have the team stand up? These are the people who bring the vision alive and make it happen. But just want to thank you, Dr. Talbot, for being the leader that you've been in Adventist media, and we look forward to many more years.
Thank you. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Association of Adventist Women, we'd like to present you with this award for leadership and, what does it say? For her commitment to sharing Jesus through her preaching, writing, and visual ministry. Thank you so much.
Yeah, woohoo! Yeah, Jesus wins. So I just want to thank you to the whole association for what you do. My first big thanks is to Jesus, not only because of his sacrifice for us that gives us assurance of salvation to be able to just live the purpose that we have without worrying if we're going to be saved or not. So we have assurance of salvation in him. But also Jesus was one who always did things to focus on women in a culture that didn't. In the first century, there were two groups of people that were so low in society that were not allowed to testify in court, and those were shepherds and women. And Luke tells us that heaven had a different view, that the first witnesses of Jesus' birth were shepherds, and the first witnesses of his resurrection were women. So God always had a different type of view, and we're always included. So the first big woo-hoo goes to Jesus. The second goes to my husband. I'm very thankful because I probably wouldn't be leading a ministry if it wasn't because my husband of 24 years was so passionate about the gospel that when we started dating, he was the one who said, well, why don't you do a master's and a PhD and this and that and all of it for the gospel. So I'm very, very thankful to my husband for that. Third, I want to thank the North American Division because they had the vision of allowing a woman to be the first leader of a media ministry that is official of the North American Division. And this was under Elder Dan Jackson, and that's when Jesus 101 became one of the 7 media ministries of the North American division, and led by the first woman to be a director of a media ministry for North America. And so I think the North American division had the vision to say, yeah, we're ready for that, and I'm very thankful for that. And fourth, I want to say that all my team, and donors and members of the executive committee, I don't know if you realize that my whole team is very, very young. There's no way we could have cutting edge media if it wasn't because of my team. So I'm very, very thankful to you guys. I can bring all the theology in the world, but if somebody doesn't know how to do it, we wouldn't be able to do it. So thank you so much. And fifth, there's many of you here who have, including my friend Hazel, who came from Maryland just for this, and my aunt, who was the instrumental one for me to be in the United States. Actually, many of you here, I know personally, and you have been part of this journey. So I'm always hesitant to receive awards because I think they all belong to God and to other people, and I still think that. But I do it in the name of Him who has called me above everything else. He's my creator, redeemer, and everything's for Him. Thank you so much.
And everybody's jaw dropped, and we waited we still know what he asked our son. Nobody remembers that. Anyway, she is a midwife and has brought almost 3,000 babies into the world. And she is a pathfinder leader for the church in Chicago, a big church. But anyway, so this women ministry stuff is old in our house. Now, Silvia Scholtus, who's being honored today, is a retired professor of theology at River Plate Adventist University in Argentina, where she started teaching in 1990 after graduating from the same university. Over the years while teaching, she completed a master's degree and a doctorate in New Testament, and that was the first one earned by a woman in a South American Adventist university. She has also written 9 books, 78 papers, and 11 teaching documents. All of those can be read online in English, Portuguese, and Finnish. And Finnish is her father's tongue. Over the years, Scholtus has taught different classes in River Plate College, University. She has worked on different editorial teams of academic journals. She's made presentations in different places on different topics. More than 30 of her articles were published in the New Adventist Encyclopedia of History. Scholtus was librarian and archivist for the Ellen White Research Center in Argentina for more than 25 years. From 2017 to 2020, she was director of the Adventist Historical Center of the Argentine Union, located on the campus of Adventist River Plate University. Even though she officially retired in 2020, she has continued to write and make presentations. Silvia Scholtus is married to Mario Roscher. They have 3 children, 1 boy and 2 girls. And now the family has grown and there are 2 grandchildren. It's a pleasure, it's the pleasure of this association to honor Silvia for the contribution she has made to biblical studies, especially those that have to do with women's participation in the task of spreading the gospel, and clearly in the organization of the Adventist Church. A list of most of her books is on the available online, and if anybody wants the information, I can give it to you. And Silvia is retired but keeps on working. Is very happy to be a part of the women's ministry.
Silvia's award is one of her students who's in this area. Is Giselle here? Yeah. The award says, the Association of Adventist Women presents the 2024 Woman of the Year Award for Church Leadership and Scholarship to Dr. Silvia Scholtus for her contributions to theology, teaching, and preserving Adventist history. Silvia has asked for us to go to the graduation at River Platte University to present the award to her in front of her administration at the university, the conference, the union, and the division officials. So we'll be doing that in November.
Our next award goes to someone whose name is not going to be unheard of to most of you. It is to Zapata, and she and her husband have been incredible philanthropic leaders in the denomination and in encouraging education. And to introduce what the Zapatas have done will be a team. We heard a little bit earlier this evening about the importance of a team. And Myrna Hanna and Larry Garrity are together going to help to present this award.
I'm very honored and privileged to introduce my dear friend, Zapata. I've known Zapatas for 45 years, and she's always been such a true friend. We share April birthdays, and always she would send birthday cards, and she felt so sad. A few years ago, she said, you know, I just can't do it anymore. So she calls me instead. But unfortunately, she's just too frail to be with us tonight, and I wish she could be. She's an amazing lady. You've all probably had a chance to read her bio in the program. And I just want to share a little bit about what she has done for Loma Linda University Health, which is where my relationship with the Zapatas has been. You know, they were not only partners in business, and they were true partners in business, but they were also true partners in philanthropy. To alumni, Becca, which many of you may have heard of, was really the birth of the philanthropy movement for the Adventist Church for education and healthcare systems. And I think we're all beneficiaries of that gift. Because of Vi's passion and recognizing the difference that teachers can make and wanting to encourage them, and she was always so passionate about teaching, the Zapatas established the Zapata Excellence in Teaching Awards. Vi always said one of the most important things to her was getting letters from those who received teaching awards. She loved to hear the impact of their philanthropy, and she kept all the letters she received, so only in eternity will we know the impact of those awards. So in 2011, the Zapatas generously provided funding for the Excellence in Science Experiential Education, or EXCEED program at Loma Linda University. This program was established to help teachers in elementary schools and academies learn ways to teach the STEM subjects more creatively. This program continues, and over 2,500 teachers from nearly 1,400 schools in the United States and Jamaica have been the recipients of this summer training program. This generosity of the Zapatas has built on the legacy of the Zapata Teaching Awards, because in almost every cohort of EXCEED, there have been teachers who received those teaching awards. So I know the Zapata's philanthropic impact has been far-reaching, and I have no idea of all the entities that their gifts have blessed. Dr. Garrity will share some from La Sierra, but since I've known them for so many years and witnessed firsthand their generosity and involvement at Loma Linda University Health, I want to just share a few of the projects that demonstrates their heart for making a difference. They were very generous in contributing to scholarships for students, to distance learning projects, to the Family Values Research Fund, to students in International Mission Service, to the Live It in the Kitchen video series, their granddaughter Jackie's creation of a nutritional cooking video program. They also generously supported portions of the Drayson Recreation and Wellness Center, the Counselor Student Pavilion, and the Centennial Complex, which is the newest educational facility on campus. One of Zapata's largest gifts was the Zapata Rehabilitation Pavilion on our East Campus. What a blessing it's been and continues to be to scores of patients. Besides their generous gifts, the Zapatas have been involved in other ways at Loma Linda University Health. For 30 years, Vi was the supportive spouse of Tom, who spent literally hundreds of volunteer hours as a member of the Board of Trustees. Tom and Vi were members for 49 years of the University Counselors, a group of ambassadors and supporters, and they served as co-presidents for one term. Because of their incredible involvement, Loma Linda University was pleased and honored to award both Tom and Vi with honorary doctorates in 2018. And I'm so pleased that the Association of Adventist Women are recognizing Vi tonight.
Myrna's done a beautiful job of telling you about Vi. So I'm here just basically to say amen to what she has already told you. I'll tell you a little story about how La Sierra benefited from the work that was done at Loma Linda. Actually, both Tom and Vi are graduates of La Sierra campus. And so when I came as president, I tried to get him to help us with a building that we needed. And he said, I never give to buildings. I just give to projects. And Myrna shared with you many of the projects that they've done through the years. And then, believe it or not, on serving on the board, he gave $5 million to build the rehab hospital. And I went right over to Tom and I said, Tom, you're a La Sierra alum, and you said you didn't give to buildings, and you gave it to Loma Linda? What are you going to do for us? So he gave us $5 million for the Zapata School of Business, which has been a real blessing to our campus. And he's given also many other things, many other buildings to. I have to give tribute to Kim Thomas, who's over here. Stand up, Kim, because she faithfully visits the parks now. Even after Tom is gone, she prepares delicious meals, takes them down to stay in touch with Vi. And I've been with her on several of these, and I know that when we go talk to her about this gift, that she'll be thrilled that all of you are here and that you recognized her for what she has done. So thank you, AAW, for recognizing a very worthy recipient. Thank you.
So Vi has asked Kim Thomas to accept her award. The Association of Adventist Women presents the 2024 Woman of the Year Award for Philanthropic Leadership to Vi Zapata and her vision and action in supporting Adventist health and education.
On behalf of Vi, I would like to say thank you very much for this. She will definitely appreciate it the next time I meet her for lunch. So thank you.
Our next Woman of the Year recipient is Dr. Rene Drum. And I first became acquainted with Dr. Drum at Adventist University. And Rene is so much more than anything that can be said on paper. She has done a work for the Adventist Church in an area that was largely overlooked, and that had to do with abuse, with improprieties within ministry, with how the church was handling all these kinds of things. It was a taboo topic that was not discussed. And Dr. Rene Drum has brought light to the fact that not only do we need to discuss it, we need to realize it's there, and we need to find ways that we can prevent it. And that's one of the things that she has spent a lot of her work trying to help happen. She has many accomplishments. She has written widely. You just Google her name and you'll see some of the articles and books that she has written on the topic. She spent 30 years working in various areas of social work that shine a light on this particular topic. And we are so grateful. I'm not sure how someone does all the things that she's doing right now, because she is a senior research professor of sociology and an adjunct professor at the School of Social Work at Andrews University. She also serves as an adjunct professor for the Doctor of Ministry program at Andrews, as well as a research methodologist and lead teacher for the Institute of Church Ministry at Andrews University Theological Seminary. And I think she meets herself coming and going, because she's also writing and she's also researching. And she also serves, when people get into a difficult situation involving these topics, they often will say, let's talk to Rene. Let's see what Rene has to say about this topic. So tonight, we are very delighted that she is here with us to accept this award. And we are so grateful for the work that she has done to help the church recognize abuse and respond appropriately as an organization, in communities, and also to respond to individuals. We thank you for helping us to be open about our conversations, and we are grateful for the research that you've helped to come together that will empower clergy for now and for the future. And we are very grateful that you have made safer spaces within the church by the work that you've done. So thank you, Rene, for the work that you do.
of Adventist Women present for her research and advocacy in the field of abuse and creating safe spaces in the church.
I do want to say thank you for this great honor. And as Larry said, the former speaker has already spoken the thank yous. Well, that's what Dr. Talbot did for me. She has already said my speech, so I don't need to repeat it. But I will highlight also my husband has been by my side, watching how my life has unfolded with trying to do this kind of work. Because you see, if you stand up and say, no, that's not okay, then somebody else is going to stand up and say, you better sit down, right? And so he's been watching, and he's been holding me up all these years, and so that's been a wonderful thing. Also, you talked about team, and I have really done nothing by myself. It's always been with a team at Andrews University, a team at Southern Adventist University, a team at University of Southern Mississippi, and now back at Andrews. And people have come around me and have lent their time and their talents, and most of the work has been unfunded. And all of the work has been underfunded. And so a lot of people have donated a lot of time and a lot of effort to make these things happen. And so I just want to say thank you to all those people who have come around and made this possible. Thank you.
leadership and support of women in ministry.
Wow. There's a saying that says that it's blowing a gale when you're when you're in leadership, and it does. But it's acknowledgements like this that give us motivation and to carry on. And I just want to thank you again, and thank God that He called me to the ministry that I have, put me in the position that I have. And I want to just say thank you to my wife and my family who always support me. Thank you.
Pastor Olina Camarena was out of the room when we were recognizing the junior winners, and we just want to point out, thank you very much.
The liturgy that is at the back of your program, so if you'd like to follow along, feel free. Otherwise, close your eyes and listen to the beautiful voices God has given to His pastors. Christ said a farewell to His disciples. I am going to Him who sent me. But because I have said these things to you, sorrow has filled your hearts. I tell you the truth. It is to your advantage that I go away. Because if I go, I will send the advocate to you. The advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all that I have said to you.
And in the knowledge of God's Son. Then we will be grown up in the faith. We will receive everything that Christ has for us.
You will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. Go into all the world and proclaim the good news to the whole creation.
Each one of us has a part to play in spreading the gospel. We each have different journeys as we each have different gifts. So, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope.
Amen.
Our president dearly, and we wanted to throw her a retirement party, but that didn't work out. So we figured out you can be her retirement party, and we gave her an award that says this: the board of the Association of Adventist Women presents this award to Dr. Nerida Taylor Bates, AAW president, in grateful recognition of her passionate work, unsurpassed dedication, fearless advocacy, and visionary leadership on behalf of the worldwide community of women in ministry.
Thank you so much. It's such a joy to learn more and more about women working all around the world in the mission that they have been given by God to do. Thank you all for coming, and we would like to get a picture of the recipients. I would also like to recognize the prior winners. We have Dr. Nancy B. Meister. We have Lourdes Goodmanson. We have Larry Garrity. We have Margaret Solomon. And there was one more. I'm forgetting someone. Elsie Chan and Grace Amori. Iris Landa, that's right, Annie Iris. How could I forget you? Thank you all. And Bill Johnson's wife is here as well. So thank you.